What is the longest 5 minutes you have ever experienced? Being a kid and waiting for my mom to finish talking to friends. I was on placement with a doctor and he told a patient that he might lose his leg due to diabetes. It obviously upset him, but the doctor left to go get something, leaving me in the room with him. He must have been gone for only 2 minutes, but I swear it felt like 20. The guy was quietly sobbing to himself, and I had no idea what to do or say. On the way to a toilet, trying to hold back destructive diarrhea in a public place. In 5th grade, while the principal was listing off the profanities, I searched on Google Earth. Waiting in front of the bathroom because I need to pee, but my brother locked the door. Being young and waiting for my mum to pick me up from somewhere, and she was late. Waiting at the DMV line that lead to the true DMV line. Waiting for that pregnancy test result, regardless of how you want the result to sway. My son was silent when he was born. The doctor gave me a serious look, handed me the scissors to cut the umbilical cord, and then rushed my son to a table on the other side of the room. I moved to the head of the bed to tell my wife what a great job she did. I honestly have no idea how long it took to hear him cry, but those seconds/minutes were the longest year of my life. He turned 20 last month. I did a bungee jump off the Verzaska Dam in Ticino, Switzerland. Link. It is famous for being in the opening scene of GoldenEye. The jump itself was amazing, but as I bounced up and down after the initial jump, my body rotated, and the bungee cord kind of corkscrewed around my legs a couple of times. When the vertical motion finally stopped, I was hanging over a huge drop with a rocky riverbed below, and the cord wrapped right around my legs, giving the impression that it was all that was holding me up. The operators were shouting at me to remove my ankle from the twisted cord so that they could pull me back up. My rational mind knew that I was securely fastened at the hip, but the tension of the cord on my ankle made it feel like I depended on it and that I would fall to my death the second I unwrapped it. I was physically unable to unwrap my ankle for a full 5 minutes while the guys shouted down from the top of the dam. Upside down, blood rushing to my head the whole time. Eventually I found the courage to unwrap my ankle and everything was fine. But man, that was the longest, most horrible 5 minutes, upside down and being asked to go against every instinct of survival. Fire department. I was acting battalion chief because the regular battalion was off for Christmas Eve. Full arrest of a 3-year-old. I arrived on scene first because I was already on the road and close. I performed CPR on that child alone in front of her family at the base of their Christmas tree for what seemed like forever before the engine and medic unit arrived. Checking the times on the dispatch sheet later, it was 4.5 minutes. 2 rounds of CPR. This was almost 5 years ago and sometimes it still feels like it's happening. I recently had a very frightening sleep paralysis. It probably just lasted for a few minutes, but it felt like ages. Sang a song in front of line 300 people without a monitor, so I cold note it, but I just knew I was totally off key. Edit, like, I have a less harrowing answer as well. The last 5 minutes of an ultrasound on your abdomen, when forced to do so with a full bladder. Especially when I got my appointment wrong and showed up an hour early. I have, in all my 30+ years, never had to pee so badly, lol. 6 months ago, anesthesia ended too soon. While the surgeon was still stitching up my knee, after realigning my patella, there were still 3 stitches to go. I still can't decide what was the worst pain, the tourniquet on the top of my thigh or the stitches. The last 5 minutes on a treadmill. When I was a kid, my mom told me to wait online at the supermarket, and then she went to go get some more things. The person who was at the cashier had just paid, and the lady in front of me began unloading her, not heavily packed, shopping cart. She had almost finished loading, and was about ready to pay when my mother finally reappeared. Those were simultaneously the longest and the shortest and most terrifying 5 minutes of my life. A presentation about Graham's butt. I don't know why we had to watch it, or why they chose to do it. At the hospice holding my husband's hand as he died, longest 5 minutes of my life. Loading screens in games back when I had a laptop. Mayo watching my crush walk away after I told her how I felt. Then she came back about 5 minutes later and just quietly told me she didn't want to speak with me anymore. Edit. Thank you for all the F's for respect. I'm humbled. Trying to help somebody you are certain will bleed out before the ambulance gets there. When my son was born I couldn't see him as he stopped breathing, felt like forever. He is turning 1 next month. Waiting to see the doctor to find out if I did or did not have breast cancer. Edit. I do not have cancer. Every time my dad begins a story I've heard 100 times. Oh god. This story still gives me shivers. When my son was 3, our neighbors were getting renovations done, so there were big noisy trucks everywhere. I was getting ready for work and popped into the laundry adjacent to the lunchroom, where my son was watching TV, to iron a shirt for work. It took me about 2 minutes, and when I turned back to the lunchroom, my son was gone. I called out that we were ready to leave. No answer. I look in the pantry. No answer. I start calling louder and louder. No answer. Looked out in the driveway. No answer. Backyard. Not there. By this time I was kinda starting to freak out. I ran upstairs and stuck my head into all of the bedrooms, calling his name. Nothing. Ran back up to the front of the house, up the driveway, down next door's driveway to see if he was watching the trucks. Still nothing. Completely freaking out now. I did not know whether to ring the police to report him missing, keep looking, or ask the neighbors for help. There had very recently been a very high profile kidnapping of a young boy only a few months older than my son. I was a mess. I had literally looked everywhere he could have been. After what felt like an hour, I started to run back upstairs, and he was just there, at the top of the stairs. I collapsed onto the stairs, hugging him and crying. He was just bewildered, the poor little thing. Turns out he had gone out onto my bedroom balcony upstairs to watch the trucks next door. Because the balcony extended out a little past the door, I could not see him. When I looked through the room as he was hidden behind the exterior wall, he could not hear me calling because of the trucks. When I looked back at my watch, it had been 4 to 5 minutes since I first noticed him missing. It felt like hours. I cried so many times that day and the following week when I remembered what that had felt like for 5 measly minutes when another mum nearby had been experiencing that same feeling for, at that stage, weeks and weeks. This happened 4 years ago, and the other child has never been found. Lost my 4-year-old daughter in a busy museum when she wandered off by herself. Found her a little while later, oblivious to the fact that the museum was on lockdown. Wife had a seizure during labor. They could not find the baba's heartbeat afterwards and rushed to emergency C-section. Everything stabilized, but it was scary, seemed to go on forever. 4 years later everyone is happy and healthy. Typing. Watching X scenes with parents. I am an adult now and it still makes me uncomfortable. Having my house broken into, held at gunpoint, beaten, and my brother was shot. It really felt like they were taking their time, but it probably didn't last very long. Probably the last 5 minutes of my dad's life. They'd done all they could for him and all that was left was to make him comfortable. We were all with him and sat around as he faded away. He was only 63 too. That was last August, but it feels like it was yesterday. Trying to stay afloat in the ocean while waiting to be rescued. Please subscribe to Reddit Throne. 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 Please subscribe to Reddit Throne.